There we go. Part of me just feels like taking off from wherever we left off yesterday. Is there a progression? If you jump into this space, you can ask questions. Focus is going to be on, I guess, money. Money is coming forward. Money, worth, energy, what is it? And I think it's interesting to note, too, that in looking or just scrolling through Facebook feed posts and looking at other people's posts, there are some very in-depth things that people, really in-depth reflections that people have posted up in the last couple of days, somewhat relevant to this, too. So we're getting somewhere, I think. We're, like, tapping into something, or we're, it's collective, hey? That's why this space works. But again, if you have questions, you can ask. I have my native tarot out with me. Maybe we'll start with that when the world came up the last couple of days too. And what's interesting about these live readings here in this space is they make their way around the world too. And wanting to further expand and go beyond that, there are other limitations, or like the resentments and things that are holding you back, perhaps. Because you want to expand further, you want a bigger reach, but your approach to it is orthodox, perhaps, or you feel like you have to do it right, or it has to be done in what you think is an expected way, because if we take an unorthodox approach to something, there's resistance to it. And I like the native deck. There's small, like one sentence briefs about all of this too. Ask questions too if you want. There's kind of an influx of just stuff at the moment, as we're tapping in here. Set my stuff aside. This stuff here. The world. They'll merge in at some point. Interesting. I found the stars first, and it's here, so I'll read it just because it's fascinating. And here it is, the world. But morning star as well. So morning star, north star, guidance, something to keep in mind as you move forward. Morning as in the sun comes up in the morning, right? It announces the rebirth of day and life. The stars are eyes for the world and nourishment for the sun that the young girl feeds with her own blood. As above, so below. Something about ritual or sacrifices come up too, blood sacrifice, but I don't want to go into blood sacrifice because it shouldn't be in that. And I've been reflecting on let's see, how do I want to put it? A book, a meditative book that has to do with altars. I guess it's relevant to this because we're talking about money. And I picked up the book and a couple of others because I like the format of them. And I've had them for a few years and sit with them, right? And for whatever reason, it's standing out this morning, but I love it. It's collage, and it's pieced together in a pretty simple way. Who's the publisher? I'm not sure. It might be self-published. There's a lot on here. I don't know. She's got some stuff. It might be interesting to I don't want to go too far into it because this isn't about the book. This is about something beyond. But if we're talking about sacrifices or the things that, where did it go? They're organic by nature, or there's just something here about surrender, plants, roots, those things have been coming up. Let's further this way. Plants, rocks, plants, basically. Let's clear that. Let's look at, but an altar space, or some sort of space to connect into. And in reading through that little tidbit too, I've realized in the last, let's call it 6 years or so, in this incubating phase or this incubating space, I used to, when I first made a move back into my mom's house after my son's dad and I separated, ended up getting stuck there for years and years for numerous reasons and numerous things. But going into that space, and even before that, especially before that, anytime on my own, it's like as soon as I left the house, in any space that I've ever lived in, anything that I've ever had that was mine, any home that I've ever had, any of my studios, anything like that, I've always had an altar space. And in the last couple of years, it's just slowly faded out, and realizing this morning I don't have one. I've got pseudo altar spaces or things that I can connect into a space with, but not like a place, like an actual place in a space. And it's what I want more than anything. It's just something to call my own. Somewhere where those roots and those things can plant deep. So if you have a space that you can call your own and you have those roots already cultivated, count yourself lucky. There are a lot of people who I think take that for granted, where they have an abundance of resources and ideas or businesses that have lasted a while. But it's taking for granted that what you have is so much more capital, perhaps, or investment that can be energetically redistributed in such a way that can expand you how you want. The world here is the ball game. And I think about this all the time because I feel like I can do so much with so little. It doesn't really take much in order to make some sort of impact or influence. And if I were given the resources or had the resources or the space or the whatever that other people had, there's just so much more that I could and I would be doing. And people who have all of these things get maybe contemplative or contented and then fall into the depression of not having. Man, these guys are calling every day. There we go. But the ball game, right? Ta'awichaloan, the world. But the ball game. The ball is the sun that rolls in the sky and gives life to the 4 elements. The crystal, the tobacco plant, the smoking pipe, and the pitcher, the water, right? Or rather, air, earth, fire, and water. And all of these elements coming together. And in this space, there's heartache, right? Heartache and the blood is what is nurturing the ground. And we had talked a little bit yesterday about what am I thinking? Come on, picture. I'm a very visual person, so getting past the images and putting them into words here. But we're talking about the soil, right? Composting, compacting. And a shamanic teacher of mine had introduced me to the concept of, and this is somebody who does biodynamic farming and beyond, but there's that relationship, or I don't know, and goat came out this morning too. Maybe we'll look to a symbol of the goat, but the order of operations into which the goat is added onto the compost pile to make nourishing, nutrient-rich soil, and how these are practices that have existed in many cultures throughout the history of time. Something about being in place. We've been so nomadic for so long. We're globalized now, right? We're aware of the global human impact in so many ways. So we're shifting energies. Hey, if you have a question, ask. The Fool, it's a new beginning, a new start, and I think that's something to consider when you get to these places, perhaps of stagnation or in waiting, where you're wanting something new or wanting new ideas or something like that. Consider the energetics and how your sacrifice is going to transmute itself into something else, especially if you want something new. But if you want something new and innovative, you have to go to these unconventional sources, perhaps ones that are that others are afraid to go to or hesitate to go to. There's like a calling or pulling something in here. The Fool on here, the divine trickster, right? He's down here with the fox as well. There's a ceremonial aspect in this as well. Ceremonial connections into things. But this is supposed to be about resources, right? Redistributing global resources in such a way that serves the evolution of mankind or does something a little different. Something that I've been thinking about recently too is, I guess, centered on this idea of colonialism or colonization or something, or wanting to help people or share resources. And I think of all these images of different cultures or tribes or groups or whatever within Africa who are wearing like bulk hand-me-down Americanized clothes. And I read something recently where the dependence on, like these clothes or these donated clothes from however they're getting them, it's again depleting and taking away from the culture because they're not making their own. So you have to consider how you can teach a man to fish, right, without giving him the fish. But there's kind of inversion in that as well. Because somebody's not going to fish if they don't know what fish tastes like, or they don't know the nutrient capacity to it. And hi and hello. Hello, old neighbor friend. I drove past my old neighborhood a few months ago. Every few years, maybe I'll kind of wander through. And it was interesting in coming back to my childhood home and wondering if my blood was still in the gutter, and there still was a blood stain there from a neighbor and I had gotten in a fight. A guy, like 3 times my size, he punched me in the face the day before freshman year. or like the day before high school, right? And I just remember bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and there's this big pool of blood. I don't know, it's making me think of this too, or just kind of like the realness and the difficulties. 10 Pentacles. Okay, 10 Pentacles. That'll work. Because we're talking about money. I gotta smudge this out. But these are like the life difficulties, or the difficult things in life and the struggles and pain in life that are supposed to orient us or direct us toward our kismet, our destiny, our life's purpose. And I think one of the things that I keep hearing and have heard from their clients, or just things that I've been reading through what people have posting, is this like, and not the like poor me, but the like, why is this happening? Why are we having to go through these experiences? We'll look at 10 Pentacles in the buffalo there. This guy is up here too. Maybe we'll even take 7 Pentacles, 9 Chalices, and 7 Pentacles. So if we look at the 10 Pentacles, where are you? There's a buffalo down here too. I like this native deck a lot because it goes beyond the standard archetypes of the traditional, say Rider-Waite, or the traditional tarot set. And it incorporates the celestial parents, or something beyond. Because again, we're limiting ourselves within these containers and failing to see the divine purpose within it, or the connection, because we're putting all of this judgment on the experiences and telling ourselves we shouldn't be having the experiences we're having. And then there's this denial of the experience, or there's just all these attachments and things, cords to the past, things that you have to cut. And maybe literally cut too, but not like self-harm cut. Don't let the chaotic things mislead you or misguide you. Here are Pentacles, that's where you are. And this card is Sage. There's a bunch of buffalo on it, but it's sage, right? Sprigs of sage purify the dwelling, dry blood and sweat, and are offered to the buffalo woman, the cosmic creator of the sacred pipe. So there's an offering of something naturally. You have to give up something. Whether it's something people see or they don't see, or experience or not, it's going to in that loss or disconnect, it's going to teach you something that otherwise maybe you wouldn't be able to see, like the blessings in disguise sort of a thing. But not all is lost, because energy is never destroyed, right, or created. It's always there. And with money too, it's like there's so much of it around because it's so arbitrary. It's a concept out of token economy that's made up, and it's only worth something because culturally we've defined it to represent many, many, many other things, right? And because it represents so many things, it represents power, Maybe we'll look at what power means too, like, I mean, even power outlet. Power as energy, energy, power. I keep thinking like power in your house. Like the power goes out. Or like turning on the power. But as an energetic current. Right? Again, of balancing or mitigating this light and dark aspect. These are chalices or cups, so it's emotional things, right? So we flip these switches of power in order to control the emotional affect. But that's where the sacrifice comes in, because when something is forced or taken from you, oh man, there's like the biggest challenge there. There's some heavy energy things that people are going through and working with right now, like just very like deity based, let's call it that. 9 chalices, hawk with the right eye active during the day. The sun, again with the sun and the energy in the morning, right? The morning coming up, the light. And the left eye that sees at night, the moon, it symbolizes the superior vision of things. The superior vision of things, which makes me think again of consciousness, and we want to attribute consciousness something solely to either humans or things that are living or that we perceive to be living. But then we have to consider the consciousness of things, of objects, because they again are at a molecular level, spinning atoms and protons and electrons and neutrons. There's all this quantum mechanical dynamic stuff happening. There's movement. I don't know, you can ask questions. You can put them in the comment feed. Sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't. But typically they'll show up. I can't see all the people on here either. I can see some people as they come in, but okay, let's look at 7 Pentacles. Knife. Instrument of the hunt and sacrifice. Sacrificing for money, especially if in investments, and recalls the necessary cruelty of the gods. The cruelty of things, or the cruelty of the gods. And the again, with the epics. I don't know why, like, the tale of Gilgamesh is coming up. I said that wrong. Because there's another one I'm thinking of too. Or like the Iliad. And you go through the Odyssey, right? You go through this journey. Because if you want to start something new or go through the experience of consciousness and awakening to different things and exposing yourself to the feels, I mean, you gotta feel all of the feels. 7 swords. I'm going to bring crows into it too. Some of these natural aspects. Crows and cups. Where did this guy show up to? Well, it's funny that the Fool popped up, because if we're talking about money and we're looking at this book, there's a suggestion for as far as cards, where to look for insight for beginning a journey or a project. Beginning a journey, beginning a project. It'll be catalyzed quickly. It's just putting the pieces into play. Oh, that's what it was. The 10 cups, right? To invoke abundance and work with feelings of scarcity. Feelings of scarcity, perhaps, is a global issue, but it's a feeling of scarcity. It's not that there isn't scarcity. I mean, there's more than enough resources. We just haven't figured out how to share all those resources in a way that will, I don't know if it's sustain independent cultures or if there's just like a, we've been mobile for so long, like nomadic again for so long, we've forgotten how to connect or be rooted into something as a collective, as far as spiritual capacity. And in having a conversation with a, how do you want to put it? Old school influential behavior analyst within the field. Or you can, I mean, even if you look into some of the literature, if we're talking about human behavior and what motivates human behavior, we're talking about the hunger drive and we're talking about the sex drive. So if you're hungry, or, you know, if you need to or want to get laid, for lack of, I guess to be crass, that's what's motivating your drive to want to attain the resources or the things like money, because achieving money can allow you to attain all of these other things. And then we get caught up in this duality and this duel between these elements. And again, we forget that trifecta, or that third element that came up yesterday. I don't know if I'm going to find it that quickly. But if there's another driving factor or something that I think motivates humans, or maybe that we've lost touch with or we've denied, is that spiritual connection, or some sort of something that drives us outside of our need to eat, outside of our need to get laid. There's something more that drives us to want to evolve or want to connect to everything outside of us, outside of the material world. We get into these if we can, detach from the external material world to get introspective, then we dive so far into the introspective nature, we lose connection with the physical world around us. And it's not like we're going to reconnect to the physical world around us by reaching back out to the material world, right? Because we're not going into a hole and coming back out. We're more going into something and inverting it and like turning itself inside out, right? And so if you're coming in from one aspect to the other, the natural outlet within that spectrum, we talked a little bit about the spectrum yesterday, would be the crown, the root to the crown chakra. And the crown keeps popping up as well, but somewhere around probably the heart chakra collectively, we're disconnecting because the heartache and the pain isn't seen as something sacred. It's seen as something bad or evil or unwanted. And that's not to say that you have the power to cause harm and pain and heartache to somebody else. Natural circumstances are going to do that outside of that, and it's being ready in those moments when things are outside of your control to learn how to redirect that energy. But people want to take control of that chaos and then take matters into their own hands, or take liberties into their own hands and seek retribution, or get into this mine, instead of the we. But the Fool is here again, and I like the Fool card a lot. We'll look at, did I read it from this one? I think I did. Not quite. I started to, but then. The god with the head of a coyote is the anti-hero, the transgressor, the rebel that disrupts and mocks. He finds the keys to life in laughter. Changing molds overcomes rigidness and death. There's that mold again that I was talking about yesterday, whether it's the chrysalis or the cocoon. And maybe that's why this space can feel kind of difficult. Think of it like the cocooning thing. Another mentor of mine had given me this one, Life Purpose reading, where in the cocoon, if you have all these mushy caterpillar cells, once everything turns to goop, the caterpillar itself no longer resembles a caterpillar. It dissolves into goop. And it's all caterpillar cells until something within the DNA is triggered, or there's some sort of catalyst in the environment that triggers something within the DNA, or just in its kismet, right, and its purpose. It shifts where butterfly cells begin to emerge, and then the caterpillar cells attack the butterfly cells because they view them as transgressors and something different, as a foreign body, right? Until eventually the butterfly cells become more and more and more and more, and then the caterpillar cells just go away. It's a natural process. I know that there's something in there about war where humans are trying to take that energy into their own hands and call themselves one or the other, where they place judgment in labels, right? Because who wants to be the caterpillar when they could be the butterfly? And everybody wants to be the butterfly, or perceives themselves as the butterfly, and everyone else is the caterpillar. But we're all inside of it's the container, it's the shape of the container that's limiting you. Like the box itself, or just the shape of it, it's somehow not conducive to exactly what it is that you want to do. Things just need to be cleaned and cleansed, and kind of start there, maybe. Like cleaning out the body, detoxing the blood. Detoxing the blood is important. Cabinets, dust, under things, between things, like taking things up off the floor to make them sacred and putting them on an altar, giving them space where you can consciously connect to something. Money. But it's a relationship, and it's an energetic thing. Because if it doesn't feel good, I don't want it. But many people are like, I'll take it anyway. Coercion is coming to mind. Being forced into things is coming to mind. Forced into things for money. Forced into something for money for others. Being coerced by money. Being coerced by things, using coercion or using money to somehow claim your authority. As somebody who's never really had a lot of money or resources or anything, I think my biggest issue or frustration with people who have money, and not all, but it doesn't even have to be a lot, but there's those that are out there that like, I have more than you, therefore I'm better than you, or I'm smarter than you. That one bothers me, because money doesn't equal intelligence. It's like, what are you willing to sell your soul for? I mean, you can, if you can't figure out how to get along without those resources now, when those resources are further depleted with irresponsible globalization, how are you going to survive? Or how are you going to thrive? Or what is your definition of thriving? Or I'm so curious to know why people want to spend their money on exuberant things or just things in general, where those resources could be redirected towards anything else that could be beneficial for collective, and they're just not. There's so much waste, so much spoiled. Because you can do that in compost. You can ruin compost. You can spoil it. You can make it toxic. That's why there's an order of operations and a certain way of doing things, and why so often the wisest aren't attached to the material. My mind goes to the millionaire out there, at least here locally through the Nugget that I've heard of, right, who comes in dressed like a homeless man and looks like a hobo all the time out of entertainment. People treat him like a homeless man. But joke's on them, and he's so entertained, because he knows that he has enough of these resources, but people are so judgmental based on what it is they see outside of them. Which is how people get sucked into these false idols, or in giving money to people who already have the money, and they just kind of, again, in this circle jerk, continue to recycle like the same gray water within the same circle, thinking somehow then it's benefiting and whatever beneficial to people because it's increasing wealth or increasing monetary wealth. And the people who have increased monetary wealth are irresponsible with it collectively, so it's not good, but they think that they're good or that they're better than because of that. Justice. They're not seeing into their crown chakra. Not all of them, not everybody. What other question? I had the Divine Abundance deck. Where did I put it? I thought that would be appropriate for this as well. Did I stick it back in the box? Oh, I did. We'll look into this one because I think people are more concerned with having instead of sacrificing or releasing or letting something go. Outrageous openness. This is funny. Outrageous. What are you asking me to do here? What do I have to give up in order to go where? Okay. I don't know. But you don't want to be depleted either. Dear love, open me to your will. Release me from my attachments. Surprise and delight me with your plan. You know what's needed, and I am open to receive. But you can't receive if your hands are full of all this other stuff. You can't be receptive. Surrender. Sometimes learning to surrender can feel as if you're dying. The ego learns what's hardest, to stop trying to control the whole universe. Because you can't. You're not in control, and people have this false sense of control because to some extent or another, we are influenceable beings influencing beings, right? It's living energy, affecting and influencing energy. The reframe part of it, this one I think is really important too, especially in those really difficult things where your life has been at risk, or if somebody has threatened your life, or something threatened to take something from you, or threatened to harm you, is the reframing. This is happening for me, not to me. Why is this happening? And it's, I want to deviate from like the victim mentality thing, because I think it's just turned into a current, let's say, cultural faux pas. Not to say that there aren't or whatever, but we're getting away from labels and things. And so in going through my own trauma recovery stuff, years and years and years worth of it, and just whatever. Do I go there? I think one of the things that helped me the most with this is that idea of radical acceptance, right? You don't really get to choose that somehow there was something contracted or energetically prearranged or predestined, or I don't even want to call it that, because then it starts to make it super esoteric. Like if we think back to the very, 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 very beginning of time, or whatever all of that is, everything that we do now is because of whatever had come before it. It's classical conditioning in a very complex level. Because it's not like it's just you that it's happening to. It's a collective thing. It's an us thing. It's that we're all simultaneously going through a lot of these things together. Should we open ourselves up to that happening for me, not to me? Maybe there's an aspect of currency in that, because if something is happening for you, there's a precursive element to it where it just feels like you can move energy or cycle energy through. There's non-attachment with for. For, I think, implies giving, right? Or moving. Whereas, like, to me, that assumes attachment, right? If there's no separation, like if something is done to me, then it's like a permanent impact on the external body that somehow defines the aspect of self. Instead of taking the framework of energy for the, I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, or if that makes sense at all, but it's reframing so we can stay in the right here and the now, in that present time. Stay in the present and don't get too far ahead of the flow. You'll soon trust that nothing more will come than can be handled each moment. And I think that's part of this too, like whatever shows up or whatever is there is because it can be handled in that moment. not so much like it's supposed to or it has to, but it's just because it is and it's there and you're aware of it and present to it because you can handle it, because you can navigate the situation. And it's funny that flow comes right after it. Don't get too far ahead of the flow, right? This comes right ahead of flow in the deck. The flow state is very important. That's that meditative space. That's kind of this space where things just are and they be, and it's in present time. It's not past oriented. It's not future oriented. It's not in past depressive future anxiety mode, right? Your heart rate is an indicator of where you are at on that time spectrum. Okay. The calmer your heart is, the more present it will be, and that calmness is the most difficult thing to achieve. Allow me, divine, to move with the flow and respond with calmness and peace. It's so difficult and takes so much practice and so much awareness to be in a situation where you can confront things or discuss things that are difficult and that are heavy. Things that people oftentimes don't want to do. If you can stay in that space of calmness and peace as things are happening for you, to you, for you, in that receptive space. Because I think there's some danger again in there in regards to the people who can do things for themselves or to other people with the intention of harm, where you see it in sociopathology and psychopathology, where there's somewhat of a detachment or a calmness or a self-justification to perpetuate that pain and suffering. And that is like danger, evil, run away. When it shows itself in chaos mode, where like if somebody's losing their shit, or if they're having like a mental breakdown, or if they're just not, and like if they're in this like PTSD post-trauma state of mind, where they're reactive and it's somehow scaring you or causing you harm or something that might not necessarily be intentional. And the best thing you can do is to be calm. Consider mirror neurons, but teaching people how to be calm in that space is, I don't know, it's not up to you. I mean, it takes a certain level of professional, but then we get into the, again, the money part of it and the system of perpetuating a lot of these issues through capitalism and capitalizing off people's pain and suffering, which perpetuates the problem in the long run. So we have this false sense of safety and security with some of these institutions that ultimately, I wouldn't say don't have the collective highest good in mind, but there's nothing you can do about it. Karma comes into play. There's nothing from a past life that can't be addressed in the current life. And it just makes me think of, for whatever reason, whether it's true or it's not, just in regards to karma, maybe like reincarnation or something like that, where like if in a past life you had done incredible amounts of harm to somebody, that you're somehow paying for it in this life. or the reason why you're experiencing the pains or something in this life is somehow because you've done something horrific to somebody else in a previous life. I don't know, it's an interesting way of justifying or just creating justification within these concepts to reach a level of peace and serenity. But I think that's where that intention comes into play. Did I bring this up yesterday or not? I don't know. I might have mentioned it. I'm going to mention it again because it's kind of bothering me. But when I was dropping my son off at school, there was a father who's dropping his daughter off at school. And he had said to his daughter, be kind to people who are kind to you. And so what does that imply, right? Okay, well, somebody is not kind to me. Does that mean I get to be not kind to them too? What's that eye for an eye thing that makes the whole world blind? Because the people who are least kind or going through the most pain or just in this space of whatever, they need kindness too. Just some level of humanity. We, for whatever reasons, as a culture, or as a world, or as a whatever we are, Homo sapient, feel the need to somehow justify our meanness towards other people. And it sucks if you're not inherently, like, intentionally trying to be mean. You could do something very nice or have the nice intentions and somebody be like, oh, you bitch, that was so mean, how could you do that to me, or something. Like the tough love. How do you discern it all? But again, like, all these things are multifaceted and have different sides to them. It's either love or it isn't love. And I saw something this morning too that said we don't fall out of love with people. Like, we fall out of intimacy, we fall out of connection, we fall out of trust, we fall out of that sort of energy, that bonding elemental energy that keeps us together. But that, like, tribal love of all of humankind, or just the lived life experience, the divine source, that kind of love. This is important too, as we're talking about money and places and things, right? Divine source is the idea that no person, place, or thing is your salvation. Only love itself. Self-love is really important as far as salvation and wherever that comes from, because you're not going to find that peace and that calmness and that happiness or fulfillment with money and with things. Some of the most loving, kind, intentional people are those people who aren't attached to any of those things. That doesn't mean anything to them. Their meaning, right, comes in that connection and that kindness and that loving energy with everything, with source, with anything you interact with. It's a state of mind, it's a state of being, it's an energy, it's a frequency, it's a vibration, right? Detachment. With detachment, you finally feel whole inside, with or without the fulfillment of a particular desire. Ironically, that's often when it's fulfilled. So whether you have it or not, does it really matter? Because at the end of the day, all you really have is yourself. There's a crow there. Let's pull another crow card. Queen of Pentacles. Okay. From this other book, to feel secure in capacity to receive, look to the Queens. So let's look at Queen of Pentacles. And I think I might wrap this one up a little bit, just because I have to body. And I have another private reading to do after this one too. I need to prepare myself for that. You can reach out to me for private readings if you want. Let's have a conversation about just how or what or whatever, and then the energetic exchange part. That'll happen as it happens. Just an opening it for shits and giggles. Oh, it's the Native American Tarot. I grabbed the wrong booklet anyway, but I opened it, and what caught my eye is 8 Swords, which is butterfly. The symbol of the soul, of air, and the vital breath that exists in the mouth. Breath, soul, breath work came up too in the last couple of days, staying calm, breathing. Right in front of me. This guy. Signs, symbols. There are decisions to make. The Queen has come to you to offer loving energy. Love, right? Peace. She's the quintessential mother, always at the ready to provide soul-soothing comfort that comes from her heart. Don't mistake her kindness and compassion for frailty. She is one tough bird who will do whatever it takes to ensure that those around her are well cared for. That's something that I've noticed too, being a sensitive person. When people are mean to me, it's very difficult, if not impossible, for me to be mean back. And in these situations, I've been called spineless, right? Because I'd rather remove myself from the situation. I feel the heartache, I cry, and, feel broken, and I remove myself. I detach. It's not... There's no fight, there's no argument, there's no reciprocating of the name calling, there's none of that. I don't do that. It's like the only time that I'll get to those points of anger or aggression is when my personal boundaries have been violated continuously. Often the first couple of times, it's met with warning, hey, warning, acknowledgement, warnings, and then eventually it'll, right? So people who mistake that kindness as weakness, that's frustrating, huh? And because they will, and maybe that's why a lot of people don't want to be kind, is because they're perceived by others as being weak, or not good enough, or, they're not sure how to detach, and maybe it opens up or opportunities for more harm. The Queen of Pentacles brings security and balance to the situation, igniting powerful female energy that can handle it all. When this card comes to you, take a moment to bask in the love and security this merciful crow is offering you. Of course, there's always the risk of going to extremes, right? The Queen of Pentacles is the mother who smothers or pecks incessantly at her loved ones, including anyone who crosses her path. She's overbearing and controlling in all situations, from protecting the nest to foraging for food. It's her way or no way. The energy at this time is fear-based and manipulative, and as a result, there's a lack of harmony. And oftentimes in relationships, when there's a lack of harmony, it's because somebody is trying to control the situation. Or again, being on the extremes of that spectrum and being in that realm of duality, right? Duality, dual, fighting, one or the other. But that just leads to more conflict and more issues, or just leads into the imbalance of distribution of resources, right? Somebody must pay for my suffering. That's such a shitty attitude to have. Why would you do that? Right? Your suffering is a gift and an opportunity to tap into the depths of the human experience and to learn how to be kind and share that kindness with others, to continue the flow of love, to heal, to reciprocate an energy that is caring, because bad things are going to happen. Just as much as good things are going to happen, bad things are going to happen. Volcanoes are going to erupt, comets are going to hit the earth, hurricanes are going to happen. Like, there are going to be forces and circumstances outside of you, right, that are going to take away aspects of the material, and then all that is left is this energetic spiritual connection that perpetuates and continues on the species. And we want to evolve, we want to grow. We don't want to be sapient beings anymore. We want to be luminous beings, luminous bodies. I'm grateful for all of this. Resentment had come up too, and resentment will be the chain that ties us down and prevents us from moving forward. That whole, like, why did this happen to me and not to somebody else, or the inability to see the struggles in other people's gifts, maybe. Again, wanting to create judgment, perpetuating aspects of jealousy and greed. Freedom. I no longer want this fiery ring of resentment to block the good. Release me from its bonds to be free, right? Ask yourself, what are you resenting? You're resenting loss. Resenting the fact that you don't have something. Resenting the fact that something was taken. Sometimes you learn true offering through loss. You make a passionate invitation for love to take over and bring her own plan instead of the ego. And maybe you did that somewhere in your subconscious. You made this agreement within your subconscious of just, I want love and I want happiness, and it's manifesting itself in this way where things that aren't good for you are dissipating, and the things, so that the things that are good for you can come into your life. But if you hold on to things in the material realm and you don't make room for new things to come in, then you don't have room for the new things to come in. You're attached to these old ideologies, and it creates impermanence. Divine abundance is important. That might be it here, unless you have a question. If you have a question, now is your opportunity to put it down into the feed. Self-love. Let the wall fall that separates me from my own vulnerable inner child. I long to take care of myself like never before. Right? Non-duality. Good, I'm glad this is here. Let your authentic humanity shine forth, while also bowing to the inner divine. You can become fluent in doing both. Right? Be human and divine at one time in the realm of non-duality. I'm going to look up non-duality real quick, and then I think I'll close this space off. Non-duality is a philosophical and spiritual concept that points to the basic unity and oneness of everything. It comes from the Sanskrit word Advaita, meaning not two and non-separation. It challenges the perception of a separate and individual self, suggesting that reality is a seamless and unified whole. It originated in Indian philosophy, but can be experienced by the human mind. In order to understand what non-duality is, you have to be able to state beyond words and thinking. That it requires the ability to silence the mind, right? In this silence, you can realize real meaning of non-duality. And peace and detachment, and then you get into divine abundance, because that's where everything is abundant, is in source. You get into this realm of collective consciousness, or this morphic resonance field, or this space where any energy, all knowledge, all the things of all time, all resources, all solutions, everything is there. It's just finding the space to tap into it and then to bring it down. But it doesn't make sense, does it? It's not supposed to make sense. It's a feeling. It's something that happens in the heart and in the body. It's a visceral experience. It's not something that happens within the mind, right? In the mind, we call it non-duality. In the mind, we create concepts that go far beyond what we can communicate this way. It's why we have art. It's why we have music. It's why we have creative expression, right? In connection. Our sacral, our energetic creative center, is not in through the throat chakra. It's not in through the head, right? It's not through thinking. It's not through speaking. Our creative center is down at the sacral, right above the root, right? Self-expression and sexuality. It's our self-expression. It's something beyond words. Thanks for showing up in this space. Trust is good. Thank you for trusting me in this space. I trust this space. I trust myself in this space. There's butterflies here even too. All right. Allow me, divine, to give you my deepest longings and trusting you to know exactly how to handle them. The deep, deep, deep longings. And it's truth, right? It's not something that you necessarily have to consciously be aware of. And the truth is just known. It's just knowing. It just is what it is. And it's not something that can be hidden from the energetic forces beyond. You can disguise it in the material all that you want. But right action, right? Like everything that wants to go, go. And everything that wants to come, come. Right? That non-attachment, not controlling things. I mean, if something is whatever, doesn't want to be a part of it, then don't let them be a part of it, right? If something wants to come in and be a part of it or whatever, then come in and let it be a part of it. But it's non-detachment. It's not up to your ego, right? It's not up to the ego. It's deepening. Once you're on earth for enough lifetimes, your old soul will begin to long for non-grasping, detachment, and surrender. They bring the peace of God. It is peaceful. Let's look at detachment again. With detachment, you finally feel whole inside, with or without the fulfillment of a particular desire. Which means that if you're attached to all these things outside of yourself, if you no longer have them, you're not going to feel whole. So you're holding on to these things as if it's what is fulfilling you, but you're not fulfilled. Something in you, wants to be fulfilled. Something in there wants to come through. It's humility. Allow me to always accept the right assistance. I welcome your help in every way and delight in receiving it. Which means don't look for the wrong assistance. How do you know if it's right or wrong? Through experience, through trusting, through deepening your relationship with yourself so much that you know that nothing outside of you can come along and shake that, right? But also that you're open enough to things shifting and changing without holding on to the outcome. Because the ego wants a specified outcome. It has a desire. I gotta have that phone. Oh, I gotta have that car. When I have that big fancy car, I'm gonna be fulfilled. No, you're not. Because guess what happens to a car's gas tank? It requires constant refueling, constant refilling. It requires just constant attention and constant resources and constant money in it. What is it there for? Some sort of status symbol? Is it functioning to somehow serve the humans and the population better? No. No, it's not. And people drive around in their fancy cars, fancy brand new cars, you know, and their whatever clothes, and they go on their shopping sprees, and they do their things, and they wear their jewelries, and they do their whatever, and like, they get so caught up in this status, and this wealth, and this identity, that they don't know who they are without it. Right? They can't function without it. They can't survive without it. They have all these things around them to make themselves feel better because inside they don't feel whole. If anything I'm most grateful for, it's the wholeness and the peace that I feel inside with myself as things are, and not needing and having to need things outside of me. I don't care. Yes, I will walk around in the same pair of holy shoes that are falling apart for 8 months. Or in the same pair of shoes until they fall apart, no matter how holy they are. Yes, I notice people looking at my shoes and judging me. Do I care? Not one bit. Because let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's sit down and talk about how we can do things better. Let's hold you accountable for your actions and create conscious change where you have to actually do the difficult work. Are you going to do it? I don't know. How many people reach out to me and want to go to those depths? Very, very, very few. Because they're afraid, because they want to stay attached to the ideals and the things as they are, and they know that if they come into this space, that there's going to be change, and that there's going to be feelings and things to have to work through. And then so, I don't know, it's like a popularity thing. I don't want to call it a popularity contest, but people are wanting to trust things that are popular, trends, because it's cool, because it gets them attention, because it somehow leads to more status and things or whatever. To say, oh, I did that one, oh, I did that one, oh, I did that one. But very, very, very few are willing to be raw and naked and vulnerable, and to really cut past all of the conditioning, all of the aspects, all of the facades, to get to the core root of what it is that they actually want to do, to be able to put it into action, to implement it. This has been an interesting space for me as it's evolving, and I'm preparing for it to evolve and doing everything I can to organize it in such a way to where when the timing's right, it'll just flow, right? We show up and then we flow. We, I don't know, go with the flow. It takes courage. You have to be courageous. Let me be open to courageously taking the steps that are shown. Trust, allowing. Not quite ready to close it off yet, huh? I can pull out a couple more and Rider Waite, maybe one or two. Maybe let's look at two. Although I like pulling in odds. Just kind of as a foundational wrap up of money. Because where are my resources going to come from? What do I have to do? Completely start from scratch, kind of. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like the collage. It's taking all of these different elements that you have and taking the best parts and reconstituting them together to get the outcome you're looking for. Releasing and clearing, releasing and clearing. Ace of Swords. There's our crown again. The crowd keeps coming back on. Oh, there you are. There might be some information in this one for you, Peter, but I've got yours coming up next. The Fool, the new beginning. Ace of Swords, the new beginnings. The answers or whatever is going to come to you is going to come through higher self, through spirit, through source, or there's an opportunity or something here that's being handed to you. Maybe it feels a little ridiculous. 10 Cups again. But it'll lead to that fulfillment. I want a different card. This one, I suppose. Because maybe this is that the contemplative part. Not so much the desires, but there's something something in this guy. So we've got taking leaps of faith to do something new, but to be open to the right information coming through and not trying to force our own information. Maybe that's part of the difficult experience, because there's a lesson in the difficult experience that's somehow applicable to whatever block in the project or whatever step in the project you're on. Because it's a project of heart, it's a project of destiny, it's a something purposeful that goes far beyond you. So you've been shown this experience to connect you to, like, to deepen the meaning of what it is that you're doing, or to give you a better understanding of the spectrum of human experience, or the potential, or just the direction that things can go in. I'll clarify that one for you specifically, Peter, after this. Okay, so let's look at this booklet. I haven't been into this deck in a little while. What are you, Pentacles? I like reading the words out of the cards just as much as the images and the pictures, because I'm a nerdy research nerd that likes all the factual aspects of everything that I can grasp, the logical the parts of it. I don't know, I just borderline obsessed, fascinated, so fascinated. It's that autistic brain though. The topic for another day. What are you, 4 Pentacles? Again with the crown, right? This is all spiritual stuff. This is important because you have a spiritual journey, or we're connecting to motivation beyond money and sex. Okay, we're connecting to a different motivation for our behavior. a crowned figure having a pentacle over his crow. Am I on the right one? I believe so. But I think he means crown. I found a typo. I find typos a lot. Clasps another with his hands and arm. 2 pentacles are under his feet. Divinatory meanings. The surety of possessions, cleaving to that which one has, gifts, legacy, inheritance. Otherwise, suspense, delay, opposition. Not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. In the trusting process, as you're sacrificing and letting things go and connecting with money or resources in a more aligned and wholesome way. Another thing I've learned through my experiences is everything I've ever needed has always been there. In some form, shape, or another. Like, even without the money itself, the amount of wealth and prosperity that I come into contact with, that I connect with, it's infinite and it's endless, just as it is for anybody else. I kind of want another one. No. How do I close this one off then? Because I feel like we all have a lot more questions. But how? But whys? But hows? But whys? Like, it doesn't matter. It's like there needs to be a shortcut, or there are shortcuts. Because we as a collective are kind of taking the long road around everything. Here's our volcano in the background as we're holding on to all the emotions because we're trying to be like, emotional stability, I don't want to go towards the volcano. I can feel your questions. I can hear them. I can't write them. People are funny. Okay. The crow stands on the riverbank, her back to the gold cups that symbolize material wealth and possessions. She is ready to fly off and leave it all behind. The moon represents her shadow self and her truer nature, one she tries to suppress but cannot deny. The Eight of Cups asks that you look inward and discover what is important. And discover what it is you want from your life. What is important to you. This card suggests that although it will take considerable strength to let go and walk away, it may be necessary to achieve true happiness. That's that sacrifice, right? Because this one, I think this one is interesting too, okay? The subconscious, right? The reversed card indicates that although on the surface you want to build upon your spiritual self and move beyond materialism, the fear of losing out is preventing you from making a decision. As a result, you have become stagnant in your growth. Should I talk about Two Pentacles? Because Two Pentacles popped out over here somewhere too. As far as like the balancing aspect of it all. Balancing dualities for wholeness. Because this shape, we talked about this yesterday, right? Dualism as far as the spectrum, this or that. But everything is interconnected because it's not just this or it's not just that. Everything leads into everything else, right? Like what is once this will eventually become that. So this is that shape of like the evolutionary process, the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, right? So if we've been Piscean, here we are in this shift over here, Aquarian, as everything is inverting itself, right? And kind of turning itself inside out. And then we'll shift around in this like feminine we for a while, another 2,000 years, until we start to shift back around and start to transition again within this collective. Thank you, Peter. Always, always, always thank you. I have the best little snippets and clips out of these two from you, Peter. I love them. They're so fascinating. And then Chad too. I get a lot of fan art from Chad. I'm honored, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of humbling. It's cute. I think it's really interesting that people take these the multifaceted thing, the representations, and allowing people to see through that. I'll look at this one, and then I'll talk about this one too, because I had a dream about mouse last night. Mice. Maybe I'll share it in detail. I might not. Well, let's look at this one real quick. So although there's two, remember there's three. There's always a trifecta. There's always a third element. It's this or this, but they're both contained, right? They both have their own containers, and so it's shifting the container, moving the container, changing the container. That's another facet of the work that I do. I'd like to connect with people in this space so we can talk about transformation on a personal and spiritual level. But I also love art and design and interior spaces and changing the inside of things and painting things and morphing things too. So reach out. Reach out. I'll reach out too. Put it out there. So there's mutual reciprocation. And 2 coins. Or pentacles. I'll read a little bit about pentacles maybe out of this book, because we're talking about money. Pentacles, the suit. Money, growth, luxury, apprenticeship, artistic. Element, earth. Okay. And this is 2 pentacles, because here we are on planet Earth. Life offers infinite possibilities. The crow is in constant motion, juggling her day-to-day responsibilities with her goals and aspirations. It is only through devoting time to both that they remain in balance. And devoting of time, devotion is an important word to work into your vocabulary. In time, because patience pays. Yogi Bhajan through Kundalini, I got this one. Patience pays. Wait. Good things will come. Consolidate. Concentrate. Just be you. And then there's like the kerfluffle and the energy there of like, well, why do you have to wait? Why can't you just have it now? It's like all living things sleep, right? You have to sleep. You have to rest. You have to take time to self-reflect. There has to be that healing period of the body, because if you don't sleep for days and days and days and days and days on end, it's not healthy. Your body doesn't heal. Okay, there's more. The 2 of Pentacles is a reminder to ensure that the small daily tasks are not dropped, because doing so could jeopardize long-term goals. It's like dusting in the corners and doing the cleaning. It's like the little things in life that kind of keep us rolling, right? Cleaning out of the closets. The 2 of Pentacles asks that you take inventory of responsibilities to make sure that you're managing everything. What is your responsibility and what is not your responsibility? We want to be responsible for other people's feelings. We want to take responsibility for other people's things, and we want to taking responsibility for responsibilities that aren't our responsibilities. And that's that control mindset where we're trying to control everything. And just because you're trying to control something doesn't mean you're responsible for it. Something I teach my art students all the time, and I mention this a lot. It's one of the first things that I mention as far as the arts, is the responsibility behind the influence of whatever it is that you're creating. If we look back in time, at least what I learned through a course that I took, Art is a Mirror of Evolving Consciousness, through my master's program, right, in Transformative Leadership. there's this idea and this notion that in some cultures and some tribes, if you weren't of the caliber of shamanism or of spiritual hierarchy, if you don't grasp that, then you were either punished or put to death for making art or creating something or drawing something, because you don't understand the power that it has. When you're using these symbols, when you're using symbols and shapes and colors, it's impacting people on a subconscious level and shaping and directing behavior, right? And if you don't understand that, if you don't understand that anytime you create something and you make something, you're responsible for it, right? Then you're naive and you're ignorant. But if you get it and you understand, and you know, or you've been told, or whatever, if you create something, you're responsible for it. Responsible for its affect to humanity. It's an extension of you, and it's an extension of self. You know, so you have to be real honest with yourself in your responsibility of creation, right? Are you really, truly assisting and elevating the greater good for all? Something to kind of put out there, like in the realm of manifestation, because you can't ask for something specifically in ritual. It's ego based. You don't get to choose. You don't know what is of your highest good. Only that which is beyond you would know. So being open to the idea that in the prayer space and the asking for space and whatever it is, that you're not asking for something necessarily specific, but asking for what is in the good of all, in the highest good of all, not only for you, but for everybody around you and the rest of us, you know, past and present, all of that. If we're coming up this way, right, the subconscious is a signal that you are at risk or have already lost focus, and the result could be a loss of financial security. Make sure that you are up to date on bills and other obligations before you drop another ball. Speaking of which, I got a car bill to pay. It's 2 months behind. Help! Universe! It's the focus, right? It's the focus. It's putting all of these pieces together, and I don't want to call it priorities, because those shift and those change, right? But the responsibilities, the duties, the right action for change. When the ego finally sees the utter madness of trying to control everything, you come to a sacred crossroads in your own evolution. So here we are at a sacred crossroads in our evolution, right? Where things are changing, and they're changing so quickly. Let's read into this little mouse. He bit me in my dream on the wrist. I thought it was dead at first. It was playing dead. But when I grabbed it to put it out the window, it bit me. And I woke up feeling the pain. Let's look at what this mousy mouse has to say. Let's see, which one are you? You go here. You come here. Our mouse in the field. 4 spades. Coming through something, overcoming difficulty. Something about cultivating the wheat. 4 swords. Mouse. The symbol of foresight and the hoarding of strength. Strength. Be strong. Hoard strength. I like that. Like, think ahead. Think far ahead from present time, or just be ready that in the future you're gonna need strength, and you have to maintain that strength, which is why there's like a patience, why there's a sense of waiting, because you'll know when to exert the energy, because these circumstances will call for it. So if you're wasting your energy, or if you're putting that energy into other things now, or you're not cultivating that sense of strength, when the difficulty presents itself, or when it arises, you won't have the strength to overcome it. Okay, I think that's it. Reach out if you want to. Am I missing anything else? Ace of Pentacles, just for one more. One more with money. Ace of Pentacles, because it's pentacles and it's money. Money, 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 money. The crystal. Symbol of purity and transparency. It reflects everything that comes from the soul and gives clairvoyance, wisdom, and the ability to fly. There you go. There you have it. Fly, little birdies. Fly. Probably see you tomorrow. Getting back in the groove of this and expanding into things, and we're just gonna keep rolling and keep going with it. Continue the mutual support. I'm very grateful for all of you that show up in this space and that continue to show up in this space, whether or not you're communicating with me or directly or not. Seeing over 300 something views on the video from the other day, that felt pretty cool. That makes me want to start expanding more of this energy off of here again. It's filling me with confidence, which is cool. It feels aligned, it feels in purpose, it feels right, it feels like right action. So thank you. And I guess I'm noticing how there are resonant ripples kind of coming out of this in deep ways, in these deep reflective ways. And it's so amazing because people get into these deep reflections and it reflects back to me, and then we just go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this experience. And it's freaking cool. And I've been researching, I suppose, and tracking this, or doing this whole cultivating conscious co-creative blah 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 neurological implications of aesthetics and consciousness and all that blah 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 whatever for a long time now, somewhat passively, wondering if is this really the way to go? Is this truly the path? And it just feels good and it feels right. And so I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to keep showing up and seeing what happens. So thank you for showing up too. I'm curious to know what is happening for you too. Let's smudge it and we'll close it. If I had bells and whistles or some sort of music, that would feel right about now. Close it out for the transition. That'll come with the space and the time. That'll come with the place and the time. When we're all ready. We got some more deepening to do, I think, before we're truly really ready, or before we really get to see how a lot of these things play out. Crystals are living structures too. I saw an interesting talk given at the Institute of Noetic Sciences conference a few years ago about this woman. Maybe she was a graduate student or something like that, but her research had something to do with the growth patterns in crystals and how they retain information and consciousness and things like that. So, I don't know, open yourself up to seeing things a little bit differently than how you maybe would have before. And we'll just keep exploring, and we'll just keep diving into this, and the more feedback I get, the better I can do too. Constructive stuff, please. We're constructing in this space, we're not deconstructing. Maybe we have to deconstruct something to reconstruct something, but this is like flat foundation, barren space where we have nowhere to go but up. Alright, goodbye.